We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is talk of the Toon, and it's a happy new year to Sid.
Happy New Year to yourself and all the viewers out there in viewerland.
Good stuff.
How's
Good to
things?
have you back. Yes, all good, mate. Did you have a good Christmas?
I did, yes. I'm about 3 stone heavier now, so my daughter's a PT trainer and is nagging the hell out of us. So I've gone meat free for the whole of January is what I've promised to do. So it's already killing us because I'm missing the bacon sarnie. But there you have it.
Is that the New Year's resolution? Is it?
That's my New Year's resolution to go meat free for the whole of January. And if I like it, then I'm going to stick to it. But we'll see.
All right, okay. Well, mine was a lot easier than that. Mine was to listen to a new album each day. So I'll be looking at that when we get Rob on for the music side of things. I'll let you know what I've been listening to. But first, we've got a lot of football to talk about. I just want to say thanks to Michael Rayner, first of all. He sent us some photographs of his son watching the match. Thank you for these, mate. It looks like you're having a good time. Toon Army Perth. Absolutely on one tonight. Yes. For some cracking football. So it looks like they had a good time celebrating the Spurs win. But can you pick a favourite game and result over the Christmas period, Sid? Because they're 6 games, 6 wins, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the Man United one's obviously a big one. But I think the toughest one was probably, for me, the real one that proved everything was probably Villa. Beating Villa. Because I think, yes, the guy got sent off. And it did change the course of the game a little bit, obviously. But that was a big deal for me because they're supposed to be one of our big rivals in terms of qualifying for Europe/Champions League. So that, for me, was probably the one. Because, all right, with beating teams that you would hope to beat or expect to beat, but Villa, next level up, I would say, and they're on a very similar trajectory to our club. They've got a terrific manager, good set of players. Unfortunately for them as well, having to sell players that they shouldn't have to sell due to the ridiculous the ridiculous PRS or PS or whatever rules, whatever, PRS is guitar. Sorry, I'm guitar fixated at the moment. So, yeah, because of the stupid rules, And bearing in mind, people forget this as well, Villa are the second richest club in the Premier League after ourselves in terms of if you were able to spend it. So that was the game for me, and I just thought our midfield has been fantastic. And the show where we broke up on before the holidays, I predicted that we'd win every game. I mean, obviously I was hopeful, and we did, which has been magnificent. What a turnaround, and well done to Eddie Howe, because I did openly say that he was under pressure. And I have said all season that Newcastle have to finish in a European place because I think the squad was more than good enough to be a European team. And for me, they've stepped up to the level, they've stepped up to the plate, and they're probably outperforming. I think they're absolutely magnificent at the minute. Tonali's switch to being that number 6, floating 6, has been nothing short of brilliant. He looks fantastic. He's really making the team tick. Bruno's gone up back to that level for me of the first 6 months when he came, and he was that attacking midfielder, and he looked unbelievable, and he looks magnificent again. He's suddenly turned into that player, and his little slotted passes, the outside of the boot looking one way, flicking it another way, and what a player he is. He's looking like the player that I wanted him to be, and in the position I want him to be, because I don't think he's fast enough to be a number 6, and he is an 8. So he's looking great, and Big Joe's just Big Joe, a colossal at times and magnificent. And also a word for the fact that his technical ability has improved in the last few years. His first touch has definitely improved. He's looking a much better player. And so the Villa game was the one that stood out. Just going back to the question.
If you had to pick one thing that changed things, you've already highlighted a few things there, but what is the one thing that has changed Newcastle's fortunes? Because we go back to the start of the season. Newcastle were getting results, but they weren't particularly playing well. Then they went through a spell where they were playing well, but just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, which was the frustrating period. We had a couple of results which, Fulham away and the Brentford result probably stand out as the two which, left fans, really down and out and wondering what on earth the season had in store. But then we've gone on this run. Is it simply that, change in formation, putting Tonali in 6, letting Bruno have that little bit more freedom, and getting those three to play well, Joe Linton and Bruno and Tonali, or is it something different for you?
It's both. There's two things for me. That is definitely one of the key factors, and arguably the biggest factor. But the other one is Dubravka being in goal and allowing the defence to push up a little bit further, because he's so comfortable with his feet. I mean, don't get me wrong. This time last year, we were slaughtering him because he was terrible. But what people forget, Eddie Howe did stipulate last year that Dubravka was playing with an injury. And people seem to have forgotten that. He played with an injury. And he's looking much better. And let's be perfectly honest, Nick Pope does not look the same goalkeeper as he was 2 years ago, when I think he was the best shot stopper in the Premier League. If he had a good set of feet on him and could pass reasonably well, I'm not saying he expects to pass like Alisson or Edison, but just even to a reasonable level, he would probably be the best keeper he would have been the best keeper in the Premier League, or certainly in the top 3. But his kicking is so bad, and I think his quality of goalkeeping's gone down as well. I think it's slipped a bit. So for me, I would keep Dubravka in goal at the moment, because his kicking is so good. They're so confident. They're 40 yards out, pinging the ball back to him, and he's just trapping it, passing it back out, and he's spreading the ball all over. He's bound to do one stray pass at some point, but it's not happened yet. And he's looking really, really comfortable. He's saving the shots you would expect him to save that he wasn't saving last year. He's just looking so much better. And I think that's a huge, and I think it's been an overlooked thing, because the team being able to push up. But of course, Tonali's pace as that number 6 as well helps, because the defence is further up. And if they're going to get done, Tonali's quick enough to get back and recover. And I've always said you've got to have a speed merchant at the back. And I'm still adamant that they need a pace man next year to go with Botman as a centre-half. As much as I think Dan Burn is possibly, along with Lewis Hall, being the player of the season so far, I would still say that we need a fast centre-half, because Lewis Hall is reasonable paced. Livramento is quick, but we haven't got any real speed merchants. And I was hoping that the lad from Bournemouth was going to be the guy, but Kelly's not getting a game, is he? So I feel a little bit sorry for him. And What's his name
I
again?
mean, yeah, it's interesting. You're mentioning Dubravka, and obviously all the signs, are well, all the
It's been a game
journalists.
changer.
Yeah, all the signs are there. He has played his part. There's no doubt about it. Although, he hasn't massively been tested because the midfield and the back four have been colossal in this 6-game run. But he has done, when he's been called upon, he's been there and done what he's needed to do. Has it surprised you that he's been linked with this move to Saudi? They're talking, at the time of recording this podcast on Monday, there's still rumours and stories circulating that potentially he could be on his way to Saudi. £8 million fee.
Yeah, £8 million, mad, isn't it?
£8 million fee for a goalkeeper that's out of contract at the end of the season. Eddie Howe was asked in the press conference on Monday, is that something that you can either confirm or deny? Is this Arsenal game going to be his last? Has the deal been done? He wouldn't answer it. He couldn't answer it. He's concentrating on the games, and that's it. That's what his answer was. But You've bigged Dubravka up there. It sounds as if Nick Pope was fit for tomorrow night's game, it sounds as if you would play Dubravka ahead of Pope.
Yes, I would. And under current form, Pope's the one that you would probably sell. I'm not convinced you can come back from 2 separate shoulder injuries on each side and come back as the same goalkeeper. I'm really not. And his kicking seems to be getting worse. I mean, don't get me wrong. You've seen I named him in my greatest Newcastle 11, so I really rate him. I think he's the best shot stopper I've seen at the club, without a shadow of a doubt, and commanded his box really, really well on corners, and he's not even doing that at the minute. And he's let a couple of bad ones in this season. We just don't have the confidence as much in him. He's pulled off a couple of great saves, don't get me wrong, but he's not looking as good. And I think Dubravka's form has shown us what the future is going to be with our next goalkeeper. Somebody who can pass. Hopefully, what we need is a combination of both, don't we? Somebody who's such a great shot stopper like Nick Pope and somebody really good with his feet. Combine that together and you have a genuine world-class goalkeeper. That's basically what we're after. Whether it's Trafford or not, I don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and espouse any opinion on him because I don't know enough about him. I've seen he did really well in the under-21 European Championships when they won it. And he had a poor season in the Premier League, but he's ripping up the Championship. And people might say, oh, it's different levels, but you've still got to save them. His stats are all there. And I'm more than happy to trust the scouting team. Personally, I would like the Liverpool goalkeeper, Kelleher. I think he's very, very good. But if they think Trafford's the man, then that's absolutely fine by me. Absolutely fine. And he looks good with his feet. I wasn't sure. I've read different reports, but it seems to be that he is. Then great. And it allows the back four to push up slightly further. And it allows the keeper to almost play that sweeper keeper role again as well. But much better than Nick Pope because of his kicking. So it looks like the future. It really does. Dubravka's playing like, as I say, what I imagine our next goalkeeper to be. They can't sell him without a backup, of course. And the Vlachodimos, I feel sorry for him. I really do. He's just been passed pillar to post, and clearly the club looks like that they didn't want him. Why they can't sell him to Saudi or wherever or on loan? I mean, you don't play for Greece 40 times and be the national goalkeeper and not being in demand. I don't understand that. I would imagine somebody would come in for him, even if it was for loan for the next couple of years. So I do feel sorry for the lad. I do. I feel sorry for him. He's done nothing wrong. And he looked pretty good when he came on for us. So I don't quite get that either. And he looks good with his feet. And people might say, oh, yeah, but he was number 2. Is it Sells at Forest? But people forget Sells was atrocious for Newcastle. But he's looked really good at Forest. And sometimes clubs and times don't work for you and work for you. It's like a job. You might go to a place and it's not right for you. You go somewhere else and it's absolutely perfect. And that's just, it's horses for courses, And I think it's very hard to sort of judge somebody just on one specific place, So, yeah, I think it's been a real game changer. Dubravka and the Tonali sort of double, if you think, because it is the spine. It is the spine of the team, part of the spine, and that's really working. Of course, Isak's clicked into form. Jacob Murphy's looked fantastic, and yeah, looked really, really good. Much to Darren's chagrin, but there you have it.
Yes, he constantly gets mentioned in dispatches, Darren, whenever you talk about Murphy. But yeah, Murphy's been superb, mate. He's, his assists have been vital. I mean, he got another one against Tottenham at the
Should have had
weekend.
two. Should have had two. He's Mr. Sitter.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Murphy's having that kind of spell that Almiron had, isn't he?
I would argue. I would argue it's slightly different, and I've seen that a couple of times. But Murphy, if you look at Murphy's stats last year, they were very good. Last year, Murphy scored had more goal contributions than Miggy's had in his whole career at the club. So that, to me, tells you all you need to know. All right, and now he's doing it for the second consecutive season. Yes, he's going to have a dip in form. Do I think he's the 100% answer? No. But I'll tell you what, he's a great backup to have. He's a really good backup, and he's a great sub. And I'll tell you what really goes under the radar, how much defensive work he puts in. Because I thought he was excellent at Manchester United, and people might harp on and say, well, he didn't do that much. But I tell you what, he marked the young lad out of the game, on the wing.
He did.
So I thought he was fabulous. He did his job. He listens to the instructions, and he does what he's told to do. And as a manager, he must be an absolute dream. And, of course, for the dressing room, he's fabulous. And he's one of us. He's black and white. So, even better, in my opinion. So I think he's been fabulous. Gordon's coming into form. Everybody's suddenly gone up a level and coming into form. And that's the big takeaway that we can have over the last 6 weeks or so. Everybody's stepped up.
7 goals in 7 games for Alexander Isak, of course. Scored in 7 consecutive games. Scored a lot more, of course, than that. But he's hitting the same levels as Alan Shearer and Joe Willock, of course. In recent times, it's something which we've been questioning at the start of the season why he wasn't doing it, but now anything that he hits just seems to end up in the back of the net. And he's proven once again that he's becoming a world-class striker, if not already there.
I personally think he's the best striker in the world at the moment. I can't name a better striker. Yes, Haaland may get slightly more goals, but in terms of overall play, being able to hold the ball up, move it around, create chances, bring others into the game, Haaland can't do any of that. He can't. He's a fantastic finisher, and I'm not having a go at him at all because he's magnificent. But if I had to pick one of the two, and everyone assumes Haaland is the best centre forward in the world, I think I'll be pretty fair to say Lewandowski maybe in the past slightly, then I'd go for Isak over him, and therefore that makes him the best centre forward in the world at the moment, and I think he is. All this talk of Arsenal is absolutely getting on my nerves. I'm having to, that's what I say here, I don't want to swear. It's an absolute farce. I was talking to a friend the other day, and if we did a combined Newcastle and Arsenal 11, I think at least 5 Newcastle players would get into that 11. Therefore, why would you go to a club that, to me, on paper for the first 11 is pretty much the same? I don't think there's much in it. I think Hall would get into a combined 11. I think Tonali would get in. Bruno would get in. Isak would get in. Gordon would get in. There's a chance. There's an argument for Big Joe. So that's where I would see those players getting in. I really would. So I don't get all of this. Let's go to Arsenal business. I just don't see it. If it was Real Madrid, fair enough. You cannot argue. You can't argue. They are the biggest club in the world. Barcelona may have used to be, but it's certainly Real Madrid at the moment. And so I have no problem with that. And I don't want him to go to another British club. I really don't. I don't want to see him go to another English club. It would sicken me. It'd be like Malcolm MacDonald when he went from Newcastle to Arsenal in the 70s. And in some ways, Isak's almost got that same sort of stature. He's the figurehead of the club at the moment in terms of everybody's talking about him. Supermac was exactly the same in the 70s, and equally as, prolific, of course. And Isak's obviously not the same sort of player, of course, a totally different style of player, more of a Thierry Henry type of player. But, similar sort of comparison in terms of what we're talking about there, though, in terms of circumstances. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I personally think 150 million is not enough. When I saw a recent thing, they quoted what would Alan Shearer be worth in his prime, and they quoted 250 million, which I laughed at. But it's probably not wrong if you look at the inflation aspect of it. And Isak's got, he's got all of that going on. He's not Shearer. Shearer's maybe more of more focused in the box, and outside he could smash him in from 30 yards. Isak's got a bit more dribbling skill and all the rest of it, So different styles of players. But Isak is, for me, the best centre forward in the world, and we can't afford to lose him. We can't, apart from Real Madrid. Otherwise, what does it say? What does it say about your club? Do we then just turn into a sort of selling club? Do we go down the Borussia Dortmund route then and bring players through, make them big, and then sell them? Is that the route that we're going to go down? Because it would absolutely shock me if we went to Arsenal. It really would. It would be an absolute kick in the teeth.
I don't think anybody can spend that kind of money at the moment anyway, The only teams that seem to be able to lay out kind of cash like that are the Chelseas and Manchester Uniteds of this world without any kind of recrimination.
Well, Arsenal have sold players and made some money and not spent, but I still don't see them spending that amount of money. I really don't.
No, and look, Alexander Isak has come out on more than one occasion and said he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to go anywhere. And Newcastle will not sell one of their prized assets. Certainly not in the middle of a season anyway. But I think like we've said on this program, on any of the shows that you can find on this platform, I think most people would agree that Newcastle finishing in the Champions League is a must this season to make sure that we retain the likes of Isak and Bruno, because that's where they want to be. They want to be in there. They want to win trophies, of course they do. Everybody wants to have a dust collector in their drawer to show their grandkids when they get older. But it's definitely that kind of finishing in the Champions League so they can showcase themselves at the highest level. And Alexander Isak has come out and said he's happy, and that's all we need to know. So Arsenal fans can continue speculating to the heart's content on various social media platforms. Jog on, yeah. Let's talk about somebody who jogged onto the pitch at the weekend, and that was Sven Botman. Eddie, in his press conference on Monday, finally admitted that he was available from the Aston Villa game. And again, I mentioned on the Amigos that I felt that Botman would probably start. People thought, maybe not, but I did feel Botman would. I thought Botman would start against Spurs, and he did. And he's come on and he's put a great performance in. He's put a great shift in. Squawka's stats, really tell you everything you need to know. 52 touches, 8 duels, 1, 5 clearances, 4 tackles, 3 aerial duels, 1, 3 possession, 1. Great stats for your first game back, after being out for the best part of a year. I think people, when they say that, they tend to forget as well. He came back. He's come back with short-lived. He'd been out before that as well. So that's a hell of a turnaround. But he has been training. Credit to the team behind the scenes, those people whose names, probably don't get put out there by Eddie. And Eddie always says, the backroom staff, he always pats them on the back. But the medical team got this spot on. They've used that rehabilitation time wisely. They brought him back in at the right time. He looked like he'd never been away. He looked rusty in that first 10, 15 minutes. We conceded a goal.
So, I mean, the stats might say one thing, but he still got done by Solanke, who scored a great goal,
First 5 minutes of a game, you're finding your feet in the Premier League again. And I think, they did their homework. They did the right thing. I think maybe we underestimated Spurs a little bit as well because of all of this kidology about bugs and, people being dropped and this, that, and the other. But when you look at that team that they put on the pitch in the second half, they weren't, no centre halves, but they had a very strong team out Spurs. So I think there was a bit of kidology from Ange prior to the game. But let's not get dwelled into that. Let's talk about Sven Botman. Important.
But it's funny because he's measured on goals and he conceded a goal. So it's a funny one because he did very well after the goal, but he was at fault for the goal. There's no ifs or buts about it. So for me, you'd probably get a 7 out of 10, because it was his fault at the end of the day. And Solanke bullied him. Solanke's a good player, very, very underrated centre forward, in my opinion. I think he's a very, very good player. Bad challenge, may I add, later on in the game where he should have probably been sent off. But yeah, he did him at that point. As I've always said with Botman, my only concern about Botman is his pace. That's why I always want to see somebody next to him with a bit more speed. But, I mean, he did a couple of great blocks. I have to say one of the blocks was fantastic because it was definitely going in. And his passing range is excellent. He whipped a couple of great balls. So I thought he played very well after that. And as you say, as somebody who's also had a ligament replacement, it's terrifying when you make a comeback. It really is. And unfortunately for him, it's obviously gone well. So good luck to them. And it's a huge addition, because to me now, we don't need to go and buy a centre-half until the summer. The priority has to be somebody who scores goals, whether that's a centre-forward or whether it's an attacking person on the right who can also play centre-forward, then whatever it may be, I would spend all of the money on one player who can do that job, because if Isak gets injured, then we're absolutely knackered. And who that is, I don't know. And Bueno is obviously the one everyone talks about, but we all get the hump when people talk about Isak going to Arsenal. So it's a little disrespectful, really. But if you had to pick a player and you could do that, then he would be my first choice, because he's got everything. He's got pace, he's got skill, he's got an eye for goal, he's a good crosser of the ball. Reminds me a little bit in terms of his play, a bit like sort of Mo Salah as well. He's got that sort of instinct about him in terms of the way that he can turn players inside out, and he always hits the target. So that would be my choice. But I suspect they won't spend. I think it would take 75 million to get somebody like that, and I don't think Newcastle will spend that money. So I think they'll go down somebody else. They'll go down with somebody else, whether it's Bakayoko or whoever it might be, Kubu or whatever they call him. There's another guy that they'll burn to. But I think they'll go. I think that's the route they have to go down. Somebody who can score both goals as a right winger and play as a centre forward. Because I'm sorry, Gordon is not the answer as a lone striker up front when he plays.
They went for my suggestion, Willock, the other day. Pushed him up front, didn't they, when he came on? And he did okay. He did okay. He filled in.
Yeah, he can definitely do that. Which again, though, begs the question about the young lad up front, though, doesn't it? Asula, you think, well, is Howe actually ever going to play him?
It's Eddie Howe's way, though, Sid. I think we've learned in the last, we did with
Lewis Hall, and Lewis Hall has been nothing short of absolutely brilliant.
And you guarantee Asula will play against Bromley?
I would hope so. I mean, I'll play Bruno in that game, and I'll probably rest the rest of the first team. Those I would rest all of them, because you can play Shaw in that game as well. You can play
Miley.
Yeah, Miley. You can play Kelly.
Staff. Yeah.
Target. Yeah. All of those players, and the subs that we've got as well. Miley definitely would start for me. In fact, Miley would start for the Arsenal game, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. We'll come into that in the second half, definitely. Just want to get your views on those two controversial handballs at the weekend before we go to the break. Did you? I've got to be honest. I watched it back again this morning before I did the show, and that the Dan Burn one. It depends which angle you look at it from. One angle it looks deliberate, but the other angle,
it's here to me.
It's not a handball for me. It's not a handball.
To me, Big Al reckoned he was lucky to stay on, but to me, it looked like it hit there. Didn't look like a handball to me. Hit his shoulder, chest struck shoulder. So not to me. It's not clear and obvious either. That's the key words: clear and obvious. And it wasn't clear and obvious. So it wasn't to me. I think the Joe Linton one's a joke. It's definitely not a handball. It's ball to hand. Matt Law, one of the writers, whining on about it. Listen, Matt, learn the law. And the laws of the game tell you it's not a handball. So he's wrong, and all these people saying, "Oh, it should have been." They should look back at it. Well, one, it wasn't in the box. Secondly, he wasn't the goal scorer, and they're the rules. If you're the goal scorer, like Bruno's was disallowed recently against one of the teams, I can't remember who it was now. Was it Villa or whatever? And when it hit his arm, but wasn't his fault, but it went in. It's still part of, it's still his arm going in. Therefore, it was ruled off. I might not have agreed with it, but I could see why that logic applied. In this case, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I thought the referee was atrocious for both teams. I thought I didn't understand where 13 minutes came from, bearing in mind he gave us 5 minutes against Liverpool and blew the minute we were on an attack, which made no sense at all. And I thought that was farcical, and I thought the Anthony Gordon incident was a straight penalty, a clear penalty all day long. He broke his nose. There's an argument for it being a red card, certainly a yellow card, and you could argue that their centre forward could have got sent off as well for the foul on the goalkeeper, or certainly the yellow card. and he did nothing. I think he's atrocious. Him and his brother are both awful referees, in my opinion. You know, they're obviously the type of kids who were not liked at school would be there. Look at it.
Okay, we are halfway through.
But,
halfway through the show, it is time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Contact them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or email www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges, all excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. Their website is media-arts.co.uk. And we're also available as a podcast. You can find us on Sports Social, Podcast Network, iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up that likes each video, and click share to share to your social media. Some Newcastle United events coming up. An evening with the entertainers, 24th of January 2025. Box office number is 0191 243 1171. Or website, Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. An evening with Lee Clark takes place on the 31st of January at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are available on Voucher or from newcastlelegends.com. An afternoon with Celeste Ferdinand takes place on the 6th of April 2025, 12 p.m. till 4 p.m, and that's at the O2 City Hall in Newcastle. Tickets from www.ticketmaster.co.uk or from Voucher. And did you get a book voucher for Christmas? Then why not buy The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy by Will Scott. Priced $18.99, also available from newcastlelegends.com.
So happy New Year and welcome back to Rob. How are you, Rob?
Happy New Year, chaps. I'm very good. I'm really good. How are you both?
Good to see you, Rob. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be back, yeah.
All good. And as always, Rob comes and brings us an album that he's reviewed and also brings us an album he won't be reviewing. I'll not be reviewing. You asked for the Blatant Racism, but this timeless classic. Steps, sit back and enjoy the 90s with the vocal talents of Sid. And he's 17. I'm not sure I was in his 17, but on sale now at all good record shops. $3.49. What's our cut of this, Rob?
I don't know.
I can sing as well, by the way. I'll stick a clip on next time. I can sing.
Go on then, Sid.
Right. What have you brought us then, Rob?
As mentioned before the break, we're going 1993, Jamiroquai. This is a reissue one. The Buffalo Man at the front is embossed on the original. So Acid Jazz, what an album. And I think, Sid, you sort of prompted me to do this one.
Yes,
Jamiroquai is actually, I've done a bit of digging. It's 2 words. They picked the name up when they were jamming. And there is a Native American tribe called Iroquois. So you've got Jamiroquai. There you go. That's what the meaning is. But what an album. I've not listened to it since probably the 90s. So it opens with When You're Gonna Learn. You know, it's like an Amazon jungle feel, didgeridoo. Then there's like Sublime. The arrangements coming into this is absolutely spot on. Really nice tempo, divine. And again, this is from track 1. Listen to this album. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's going to be highly rated, like I did the NWA one. Then you go into track 2, Too Young to Die. Again, absolutely brilliant. It's sort of like Stevie Wonder meets John Coltrane. It's quite relevant now. The vocals more now than ever. A nice viola part on this. Again, jazz funk with a really nice horn section. You've got Hooked Up, quite a smooth, sort of, you know, funky, sort of pumping acid jazz. It's best for me on this album. It's so tight. And again, live, I was watching some of the stuff on YouTube. Unbelievable. Bass runs, etc. The direction, you don't know what's going to do or where it's going to go. And for this song as well, I think the bass player, I'm not sure who he is, he has Mark King from Level 42 in his back pocket. It's unbelievable. You know, track 4, If I Like It, I Do It. Nice Hammond organ opening with this one. Nice, snappy drum build up with a cowbell. Not a lot of many songs can get away with a cowbell, probably, apart from Honky Tonk Women by the Stones. The bass comes in again. It just kicks in. Unusual sort of horn section. And again, the direction is just unbelievable. It keeps you alert all the time. You can be busy and you just pick up a change in direction or something else will get put in the mix. It's brilliant. You've got Music of the Mind. Consistency so far is unbelievable. Really nice chords. The bass and the trumpet is perfect. It's sort of like got a really nice samba middle 8 section on this one. Sort of double time beat. The drums are superb again. You got track 6, Emergency on Planet Earth. This was the first song that I was introduced to the band when it came out and thought, what's that? And I do remember buying it on cassette because I thought it was different at the time. It was 1993, so like the majority of people were in Britpop. That side of things, I really sort of like Jamiroquai, this album, The Beloved, Portishead, sort of trip hop. So I went down that direction. It was a bit different for me. You've got 7, Whatever It Is, I Just Can't Stop. Nice little drum intro, nice wah-wah effects on the guitar. Again, slap funk bass. Quite slowish in tempo, but again, it keeps me interested. You got track 8, Blow Your Mind. 8 minutes of bliss, trancey. That's unbelievable. It's sort of sultry. This is a 10 out of 10 for me, this song. Everything about the track is just mind-blowing. Just do whatever you're doing during the day and put this song on. It just takes you in another dimension. You've got Revolution 1993. Being a drummer myself, I think this is like definitely the one for me. It's good sort of military style sort of snare work, then sort of like Moog keyboards, fuzz distortion throughout the bass on this. Really good, but really hard, sort of funky. It's got a little bit of a rap edge feel to it as well. You've got track 10. The final song is Didging Out. It ends the album, unfortunately, with this one. You know, the opening of the album starts with the didgeridoo. This one ends with the didgeridoo. Got nice hand percussion, the tom work, that side of things, bells, triangles. Bit of a down song, but in a good way. But it's a down song as you know it's the last song on the album, and it's one of those albums you could just keep going with it. You know, it's an instrumental song. It's like a pounding. It's got a dirty flat bass. The bass guitar on it is just absolutely brilliant. So for me, this is going to get a 9.5 out of 10. Absolutely brilliant album. Musicianship, unbelievable. What a talent. What a talent. Absolute superb album.
Go and check that out again, to be the West. I've heard it. His mum, Karen Kay, was a singer, of course, as well, and on loads of TV shows in the 70s and 80s. Very pretty woman as well, from what I recall. But there we have it.
Yeah,
good choice.
What are you bringing it, Sid?
Right, well, I've gone with an album sleeve that probably ruined the career of the band. If you can chuck it on the screen there for us, Steve. And it's Free's It's Free. It's the album Highway, which came out the same year as the Fire and Water album, which was a huge success. And this was the backup, and nobody knew that this was free, or not many anyway, because it doesn't have the word free written on the front. Everyone assumed it was a band called Highway, which is just stupid. You know, so they had such a huge album, and then this didn't do as well because of the stupid cover. For me, this is arguably Free's greatest album. It's a bit like the band of the band. It's got a really fantastic tunes on it. It's really laid back, great grooves, lots of melancholy within it. Andy Fraser on it, the bass player, is just on another level. He's only about 18 at this point. I mean, the whole band was so young when they made it. Paul Rodgers is only about 19 or something when he's singing All Right Now, which people seem to forget. You know, he was just a young kid. Not Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers was just incredible. I mean, what a band of musicians they were. What an incredible band. So it's just a fantastic album. It really is. We've got great songs on it, like The Stealer. It's just a great song, real blues rocker. The Faces also did a great cover version of it, which is superb. We've got followed up by Be My Friend. Sublime song, pleading lyrics by Rodgers. His voice is just incredible. I see he was 20. I've just checked. He was 20 years old at this point, which is just crazy to have a voice that good. I mean, there was him, Rob the Mod at the time, and Joe Cocker were the great three blues rock singers at that time. Sunny Day, another great song. Again, real sense of melancholy, real pain in his voice, but beautiful singer, you know. And a local lad, of course. I think he's from Stockton. And he always quotes the City Hall as being his favourite venue. So yeah, love him. Right on a Pony, huge song featured on the live album as well. Really popular. Love You So is my favourite song on the album. It's just an incredible ballad, brings tears to your eyes. I seen him do this about 8 years ago when he played the City Hall, and he just did all 3 songs for the evening, and it was incredible. I mean, his voice is still exactly the same. We've got an odd song on it, Bodie, not as in the Professionals, of course. And it's a super song, although you could argue it's a little bit rushed. And Soon I'll Be Gone, another amazing ballad. I mean, they are just an incredible band. Simon Kirke, great drummer, always slightly behind the beat, very languid, laid-back style. Of course, Kossoff's magnificent guitar playing. The vibrato that he has is sensational. He's an unusual guitarist, because people forget on All Right Now, Paul Rodgers showed him how to play the riff, and he never quite got it right. He could never quite play the rhythm, but solo-wise, he was just incredible. What a player, what a band. Much better than Bad Company, in my opinion. These should have been, for me, these are one of the great overlooked bands in America. They should have been absolutely huge. I mean, Bad Co are massive in America, but these should have been enormous. One of the greatest bands of all time. We do a show on them as well, so feel free to go and check it out. My mate Paul's on it, and Paul's seen Soul Free 2 or 3 times as well. So a little bit envious of that. And yeah, great band. Tons of sobs on there they recorded when they were like 16, 17. And to have a voice that good is just ridiculous. The Hunter's on there. Everybody seemed to have to do the Hunter at some point in life when they were in a band. You know, I mean, I heard the story of people shouting for the Hunter at an ABBA gig in about 74, but there you go. Instead of books, I've decided now to do films because it's easier. So just saves us a bit of time as well. And I've gone with the Ipcress File, which is also a book, of course, by Len Dayton. And it's a magnificent film starring Michael Caine, released in 1965. It's based on the thriller. And Michael Caine plays a character, Harry Palmer. Now, Harry Palmer is the anti-James Bond. And it's what's remarkable about it, it's got most of the Bond team in the film. It's got Harry Saltzman, for example, producing it. It's got the same production designer. It's got John Barry, for God's sake, doing the music. So it's got the same people. And they've basically, he's almost like he's like a Bond, but with no money. You know, everything's really sleazy. The woman who's the equivalent of Moneypenny is some fat old woman with a tab hanging off her mouth. It's really funny. It's so far removed from Bond. It's almost like a realistic depiction of espionage. It's fantastic. He's hard. He's got a dark side to him as a character. He's quite sarcastic all of the time. I love the way that the film starts at the beginning. It's really blurry. And you think, oh, what's going on here? And then he puts his glasses on and then it comes into focus. Very clever camera work. Michael Caine, he played Harry Palmer 5 times. And even right up to the 90s. So you've got him as an aging man as well, and who can't run around and do all of this sort of stuff. But he's still always got that dark side to him. And as I say, he's like the anti-Bond because he's not a public schoolboy like Bond. He went to a state school. You've got all of that going on. He's got a broad Cockney accent, of course. Sure. It's very violent. There's real great. I'm not going to tell you the story. I'd rather you go and watch it. But it's got like brainwashing and double agents and all the sort of things that you would expect. And it won a BAFTA in 1966 for being best film. And the follow-ups are great films. I love all the follow-ups. They're all superb. The Berlin film's great, $1 Billion Brain, great, and all the rest of the ones that came later on. So, yeah, Ipcress File, fantastic film with a great actor. I once seen him. I was in Paris with my wife, and we're just walking through Paris. And bizarrely, I recognised his wife before I recognised Michael Caine, because she used to be on the coffee adverts in the 70s. And so I recognised her, and then I recognised Michael Caine. He was literally about a yard behind her, bizarrely. And it was chucking it down with rain, but yeah, and he was just had a little hood up. He was walking around trying not to get recognised.
I never met him, but I did a podcast with him. Bizarrely, I got asked to do I got asked to do a podcast about gangs in London years ago, and Michael Caine was presenting it. And I've still got the podcast. And on three occasions, he has to say my name, which was great because he's introducing my Vox Pops, my little interviews. So fantastic, great stuff. Never got to meet him, but a piece of history for me. I do want to share some music with you guys, and I'll be doing this each week now. It's my New Year's resolution is to listen to a different album a day, an album that I've never listened to before in its entirety. I can have listened to a song, but I've never listened to these albums in its entirety. So my first album was Bob Dylan by Bob Dylan. I'd never listened to this album. For me, I'm not going to review these because it would take too long and it would take up half the show. I thought he murdered House of the Rising Sun, to be perfectly honest. But my favourite song on that was See That My Grave Is Kept Clean. Really enjoyed that song. My second album was this one, Harry Styles by Harry Styles. Not very original album titles. I didn't think I was going to like this, but Sign of the Times, which of course was his first single, I really did like that song anyway, so that was always going to be positive. Two Ghosts and Woman, worth a listen to if you're going to go and download that or buy that and listen to it. But yeah, Harry Styles was probably the one I was least looking forward to, but it was okay. It was okay. My third album was this one, Michael Chapman, Fully Qualified Survivor. Very folky, I felt. The two standout tracks on this one for me were Soulful Lady and Kodak Ghosts, which I really liked. I also liked
Johnson on these albums as well. Good.
Yeah, it's interesting to see who plays guitar on some of these albums. You know, you're sometimes quite amazed. But yeah, I quite enjoyed Stranger in the Room as well, which is a track which comes up a little bit later on the album. I followed it up with this. Michael Nesmith and the First National Band. Nevada Fighter is the title of that album. Again, very countrified. Dave Beanie was recommending a lot of these to me. Nevada Fighter, the title of the album, is a good song on the album. Texas Morning, I like that. That's probably quite a commercial track. Most people will probably know that if they heard it. And Renier, which is a musical, number on there, instrumental number on there, is quite good. And then Dave Stanier from the Long Sands recommended this. Of course, big thanks to the Long Sands, Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band who played the charity gig for us at the weekend. We'll be announcing the total probably on the Amigos on Friday, how much we've raised for the cat and dog shelter, but it was a great night. Stan recommended this, Stephen Wilson Jr., Son of Dad. Oh, God, you couldn't get any more country and western if you tried listening to this, but he's clearly lost his dad recently, and it's a relatively new album, this. 3 tracks. Grief Is Only Love, great number that. Hang In There, and there was hints of Springsteen, Neil Young and Kenny Rogers in it. Just, the father-son, obviously another good song on there. But those three songs come one after another on the album, and yeah, well worth listening to. And today I am listening to this Son of Schmielsen, Harry Nielsen.
Yeah.
Great album. What a comical guy. I was told there might be a bit of swearing on this album. There certainly was. I enjoyed most of it. I'll probably listen to this one again, but I did enjoy Take 54, which is the opening track on the album. You're Breaking My Heart was very good, and I loved Ambush as well. So that's my selection and albums for this week. Rob, you wanted to say something else, didn't you, before you jotted off?
Yeah, thank you. It's just, well, a couple of things. I just want to give a shout out to my daughters, Amy and Sophie, for making Christmas and New Year such an unforgettable one. I'll never forget it. Yeah, and listen to this, the Jamiroquai. Sophie said to me she doesn't like listening to songs, she likes to listen to albums. It melted my heart. But before I go, if the viewers can choose one of these for next week, I've got Skids, Scared to Dance.
Yeah.
Stranglers, The Raven.
Oh, classic.
It's a 3D cover, Sid. And The Cult Love.
Classic.
So if yours can, there'll be poll, and whatever's the favourite I will do for next week.
Okay, stick them in the comments underneath the video, or stick them in the chat. I'm sure Rob will be watching live because this is a pre-record. Stick them in the chat and Rob will pick the one for next week. Great stuff, Rob. See you next week, pal.
Great to see you, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Great to have Rob on. Last 10 minutes, we'll look ahead to tonight's game against Arsenal. League Cup, Carabao Cup semi-final, whatever you want to call it. First leg, of course. It's a month between the games, which is quite unusual. But it is away. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff. It is live on ITV and on Sky. 6,000 tickets in the away end. It's on ITV as well. 6,000 tickets have been snapped up, as you would imagine, sold out away end. I'll be there. War Flags have urged those travelling. Might be too late now to take your black and white scarf. But if you live in London, you can nip back. But yes, teams now we know from a Newcastle point of view, Sven Botman's okay and Anthony Gordon is okay. Both will be available for the match. Fabian Shaw and Bruno Guimaraes both miss out as they serve their one-match bans. No Nick Pope, Callum Wilson, Jamal Lascelles or Emil Kraft. Arsenal went into this game off the back of a 1-1 draw at Brighton, but their unbeaten sequence in all competitions at the moment is 13. Ethan Nwaneri scored his first goal for Arsenal, his first senior goal, but he was then replaced at half-time with a muscular problem. Saka has undergone surgery, so he will miss both legs of this semi-final. Yeah, he does. How did Arsenal get to the semis? They beat Bolton 5-1 at home, they beat Preston 3-0 away, and they narrowly beat Crystal Palace at home by 3-2. Who's the referee? It's Craig Pawson. This is his fourth game in charge of a Newcastle fixture. We beat Southampton, we drew at Everton, we lost at West Ham. So he's got one of each going into this game. Carabao Cup semi-final ties are part of a trial where the outcome of VAR decisions made when the referee views the pitch side monitor will be explained over the stadium PA system by the referee. Any VAR decisions not made via the pitch side monitor are excluded from the trial and will be announced via the scoreboard messages, as is currently the case in the Premier League. VAR, in that case, is run for this game by John Brooks. So, huge game.
I always look at VAR, Steve. I think it's a joke bringing it in at this point. If it's been the whole tournament's been no VAR and then they bring it in, I don't understand. I think that's farcical. I watched Gary Lineker earlier on, actually, on a podcast, and I agree with his concept for VAR of bringing like what they do with the cricket, where you got 2 appeals. Absolutely, totally agree with that, or 3. I think it might be in cricket, but a couple of appeals, and I think that's exactly the way it should be. It's down to the captain, and you got the option to appeal. I think that's the way it should be, or the manager, or whoever it is. That's the way it should be. It's spoiling the game. It's killing the game. The referee in the game to death. I am hating being at the match now when we score, thinking, "Oh, is somebody offside?" The only time I think that it's a great goal is when somebody's rocketed one in from 30 yards, and you think, "Well, it can't be offside," and this, that, and the other. It's really spoiling the celebration and that natural reaction of jumping up and down. And we've had this in the League Cup when there's been none, and it's been fantastic. You score, you're jumping up and down, get in, magic, definitely a goal. Not looking, he's not doing that on his bloody ears or anything like that to see if it's VAR. It's killing the game, absolutely killing the game. So I would do what Gary Lineker says, because I don't see them scrapping it. But the Lineker suggestion totally works for me. But yeah, anyway, sorry about my little rant there. But that's
no, you're entitled to one. So big game, of course, and I mean, whatever happens in this game, it's only half time.
Yes.
It's interesting because Craig Hope, I think, in the press conference asked him about that. He says, "Do you see this as like, you know, end of this game is just 45 minutes, or Eddie just said, look, we just take it game by game. It's a separate game." He says, but I can see why you would think that, why you were coming at that. But if Newcastle are 1-1 with Arsenal at the end of this game, it's not a bad result. If Newcastle are 1-0 up at the end of this game, it's a great result. And if you're 1-0 down after this game, it's all to play for in the second leg.
It is. It's just making sure they don't get a couple ahead, really. It's a funny one as well, because Arsenal are one of them teams that could beat you home and away, but so can Newcastle. And as I mentioned earlier on, we have 5 players, maybe 6, who would walk into the starting combined 11 between both teams. One thing they've got is definitely a better goalkeeper. And obviously Saka, when fit, is magnificent. But yeah, and they've got a good midfielder. I forgot his name now. But for me, and 2 excellent centre-halves. But I don't think there's much between the teams. I really don't see a massive difference between the teams at all. And what might be the difference, ironically, of course, is Alexander Isak. And I think it's going to be very tight. It's their ground. Newcastle looked tired against Spurs the other day, so it was a totally different performance. And they've got to do it one more time before they get a rest. But then again, Arsenal played yesterday, so they've had no rest either, and they haven't got the biggest squad in the world either. They're not in a situation where they can just, like a bit like Liverpool, where Liverpool can change quite a number of players. Arsenal can't do that. So Arsenal are not a million miles away from us, where they're going to have to play the same players again. They've got a couple of alternatives, but they're not what I would describe as game changers. So I think it's going to be very, very tight. I think it's going to be a tired game. I can see goals. I'm going for 2-2.
I've gone for 1-1. I think Newcastle will get a draw down there. I think it'll be a very tight game. I think you're right. But Newcastle are scoring goals. 2-2 could be a good shout. Great to get a win down there. Carry the momentum on. But we've already played them. They'll be as worried about us as we are about them, I guess.
Absolutely are. They absolutely are. I've got a friend who's an Arsenal fan, and they're terrified, to be perfectly honest. They're really worried that we were the team that they did not want to get, which I thought would be Liverpool, but it turns out it's us, which is a bit of a surprise. I quite fancy Newcastle, and if we get beat, we get beaten. That's the way it is. But I do fancy us.
We're a different beast, Sid. We're a different beast. I think we'll get something down there, and that'll be positive. FA Cup match at the weekend, Bromley. We've already said we expect lots of changes. Newcastle will probably give a lot of fringe players an opportunity to play.
There'll be 10 changes.
It's going to be so difficult to predict the scoreline in that, because we don't know what the team will be. But do you think Newcastle will progress? They should progress, shouldn't they, really?
Yes, they should. I think it'll be a lot tighter than people will assume. Everyone will be going, it'll be 8-0. It won't. You don't suddenly throw 10 new players into a team and expect just to walk in and click and combine as a team. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 1-0. Like last year, like earlier on this year when we played, was it Wimbledon or whoever it was, and everyone assumed we were just going to walk past them. And it was a really tight, tough game. Really tough game. I can't remember what it was now. First round of the League Cup. And I think it'll be very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those where we just scrape through, and it's a bit dull, But so be it. I really don't care as long as we're into the next round. And you should have such a strong bench, because you'll have all the big hitters on the bench. But just quickly going to the Arsenal game, I would start Miley tomorrow. I would definitely start Miley as the other midfielder over Sean Longstaff, who I think he'll actually play. But I would start Miley over him. I just think he's a much better player in my opinion.
Longstaff never got mentioned in the press conference, and he was directly asked about Miley, and the way they answered the question about Miley was very similar to the way they answered the question about Botman before Spurs. So you never know. There might be that little opportunity for Miley tomorrow.
Yeah, I would start him over Willock as well. I'd start him over Joe Willock as well. So he would be my definite starter. So, but Bruno's going to be a huge. But there we have it.
Yeah, Bruno's going to be a big miss, but we've got a good enough squad. I think we'll get the result, as we've already discussed. But Sid, time has beaten us. Great show, mate. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Take care. Look after yourselves, folks. Bye-bye.